It's Wednesday the
something or other in the middle of June.
It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday and it's June.
And the weather's nice, so we're sitting outside.
Yeah, we are.
Right,
so cheers. We've got a Diet Coke.
Diet Coke break.
Diet Coke break.
Where's the Diet? Where is the Diet Coke? Actually, the Diet Coke man's inside.
I don't want you.
Alright, enough already. Nobody needs that. Nobody needs that. Seriously, nobody needs that.
That was a great advert, wasn't it?
The whole idea of the Diet Coke man was, I mean, titivating to say the least. Titivating.
It was genius on their behalf.
So I'd like to talk about taking photos and how it's changed and all of the convenience that you get these days. And it's because we've been looking at pictures for my mum. So we've been trying to find old pictures.
Yeah.
And so we've been looking through albums, and you realise how out of focus they are, how scratchy some of those pictures are when the pictures were printed out and they went in the album. And it's like, but I found this great photo restoring.
Thumbprints on some of them where they've just been scanned and with the
found this photo restoring app, which is taking black and white and colorizing really cleverly. Now, I'm not a big fan of AI, and I think most of the people watching this will understand why I'm not a big fan of AI, because of my business in voiceover. But the photo apps in AI are really very clever, and I don't think there were very many companies colorizing and doing that kind of style of photography for people. It's just really clever pictures and cleaning up pictures that, you know, I never would have dreamt of putting on my wall before. But I think now there's a chance that I will actually print some of those pictures out and put them on the wall, because they are stunning memories. I found a picture of my grandparents, which was really grainy with my mum, and I wouldn't dream of putting that on the wall. But I've AI'd enhanced it and colorized it, and it's exactly how I remember them now. It's the most incredible thing. Very strange.
So let's start at the very beginning then. So back in Victorian times.
Once upon a time. When you had your box brownie.
When if you were very wealthy and you could afford to have a photographer, because you would never have
the man behind put the hood over his head.
Clicking his button.
Oh, it's a bit windy on that tripod, isn't it?
Oh,
golly. Let's hope it doesn't go over.
Stay with us.
You could have used my big proper tripod if you wanted.
We've started now. In those days, it would have been, you'd have been very wealthy.
Yes.
You'd have waited probably a month for the pictures to come back.
Because it took that long to actually create, didn't it?
Well, and also there's a thing about how Victorians look very miserable in pictures. That's because they couldn't smile.
They had to stay for the exposure, didn't they?
Sometimes 30, 40 seconds before they could move. So they just kept froze on the spot.
When you consider that this video is taking 60 frames per second.
Every second.
Every second.
Every second?
Every second.
Every
second counts.
Every second counts. Welcome to Bob's Every Second Count.
Every second counts was Paul Daniels.
Oh, that's magic.
That's magic.
And then we've developed into, and then we've progressed into...
developed. See what you did there.
Into film on slates that would be developed in line. Now, and then we went on to camera roll, 35mm camera roll, and that's where we started. That's where I started anyway. And we were talking about this an hour or so ago. And we were saying about the ridiculousness of if you're listening now, watching now, and you're under the age of let's say under the age of 30, even 40 maybe, and you go back as far. And you go, when we were in our teens and we went on holiday, you would take a camera, and not a phone, because there was no phones. Take a camera and you would take maybe 2 or 3 rolls of film.
And I had one of those cameras that was like long and oblong, and it had a kind of fold down handle, and it just had a little cartridge that you slipped into it. That was probably the
28mm.
Late 80s, early 90s, I would have thought. Then there was a disc camera that you could get a film that literally you just put not like a computer disc, but it was a disc that would go around and take 24 shots.
It was like a one of those kaleidoscope things. But however you did it. But then you go on holiday and you would look forward to seeing the pictures when you got back, because you would then have to send them in.
Send them off to a company, like a mail order company, and there's a special little envelope or bonus print.
True print.
Fujifilm,
or Kodak.
Yes.
Or you'd send
Kodak was always the expensive one, though. My dad always used Kodak, but it was the expensive one.
And they just went into slides in the end. But or you would take them to Boots, and in the latter days, you'd say, I want to pay a premium and have them back in an hour.
In an hour.
And that was like 15 quid for 24 pictures. Or you'd go back the following day and pick them up for 8 quid. And you'd look forward to actually seeing. Now, photographs on the phone, we take 17 of our dinner.
Boom. And they're there right away.
17 of our meal. 34 of you sitting there in the car. No, I don't like that one. I don't like that one. No.
Always that.
But we had 32
on the flowers, by the way. Sorry, I just spotted them, bud.
Still talking. 32 on a camera roll, and you might take 2 or 3 camera rolls on a holiday. Once they were gone, they were gone.
That was it. And so you didn't want to waste pictures. Well, so that's why we didn't.
And you didn't
take
want to buy
of
more
food.
film, because anywhere where touristy where you'd buy more film.
Oh, double the price, triple the price. Absolutely right.
You paid
like petrol at a service station is more expensive. But then we heard this thing on the radio where people were talking about there are apps where you can choose that you can't see the pictures for an hour, or you can't see them for a day,
or a week,
or you can't see them for a month. And it's like, and I think that's the most ridiculous thing
I've
ever heard. I just think it's ridiculous.
And there are apps where you can share the camera reel with friends. You'll log into this camera, so you'll take maybe 5 pictures each on this camera, and then the following day or the following week, it will then deliver them to your inbox. And it's that whole nostalgia of waiting for the photograph.
Look, we're now living in an age where we don't have to wait for stuff, so I don't want to start having to wait for stuff. Thank you very much.
So I have a statistic for you, and I heard this about 3 years ago. So what do we know?
All statistics are made up?
No, 2022.
Yeah.
And that was in 2020. No, it was before lockdown, so it would have been 2019, 18. There were more
1987.
There were more photographs taken that year than the rest of history.
I can well believe it.
Because we're literally taking 34 of our dinner, and we don't tend to delete them.
And apparently, the videos uploading on YouTube are going exponentially as well.
YouTube is the way forward, because you're watching us on YouTube.
Yes, you are.
It's the way forward.
Yes. Don't forget to subscribe as you're watching, because you can do that. Just hit the subscribe button as well. We'd like that.
Show us a bit of love. Hit subscribe.
And comment, because we love getting your comments, and we will make another show all about your comments. Shortly, because that was quite a fun one.
Yeah, we'll do that soon. The other thing I wanted to talk about, we've done photography and apps. The other thing I wanted to talk about, which is quite current in the news.
Just before you do,
what's
the best photograph you think you've ever taken?
Of me?
No, just of anything. The best photograph you've ever taken.
I wish you'd pre-warned me. You were going to ask me that.
It's like,
I don't know. I have no idea.
I took one looking up at the Empire State Building on film, on a film camera. In the 80s, and I just remember because the pinnacle was right up there. I mean, you could probably tell it was a phallic shot even then. So
don't know. I'll have a think about that.
Let's not go down that route and taking photos like that.
It's quite a good angle.
That's the best photo.
Quite a good angle.
Taken, yes, I realised as I was saying that how bad that sounded. But.
The other thing I wanted to talk about, which is we've discussed briefly this morning, without realising that I was going to, is the topical one. Is of course the news that so many of ITV programs are being merged into one, and the whole are people changing their viewing habits and
run out of money.
Not necessarily talking about that, but the whole, because we were saying there is a whole generation now that have never probably watched television.
Yeah, and the little kids don't watch TV.
They're watching YouTube, they're watching streaming,
because they don't need to watch it. Linear television has been declining for a long time.
Yes.
Which is why, programs are on other streams.
Platforms.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really wanted to test your knowledge on this, your experience of this. How much television are you watching? Live television, I mean, not streaming it.
You don't mean live television, do you? You mean
conventional television,
terrestrial broadcasters.
Freeview, but watching the stuff on television.
Yeah,
because you could watch anything on the iPlayer. That's streaming.
Yep.
Or ITVX. That's streaming.
But you're talking about if you're watching BBC One, BBC Two, Channel 4,
to watch
ITV,
the news with a cup of tea on the box.
On the telly.
Yeah, on the box. It'd be interesting to see how much hours a day. Because I think, and I was brought up. TV was the best babysitter in the world. I was brought up on TV.
I think we both were.
But I think now I probably watch maybe 4 hours a week, and that's probably just the news.
And I don't watch the news. I listen to it on the radio.
And,
so I watch even less than that, I think.
Yeah, I think there's probably one program maybe a week that I watch. But
sometimes watch Question Time on a Thursday night, occasionally if I'm up. But apart from that, not much.
And I wonder whether it's on. Well, I wonder whether it really is on the decline, or whether we've just got better at monitoring how much we're watching. So before, the viewing figures were taken from, I don't know, 1,000 people doing a television diary, and then they multiplied that up to say, 27 million people watch.
But now all the skyboxes can see what you're watching.
Absolutely.
Anyway, no, I think there are fewer people watching programs as well. So for instance, when there were 3 channels, a Saturday night program would get
27 million.
27 million viewers. I mean, it's ridiculous. Whereas Strictly now, which is BBC One's highest rated program, gets what? 6 million as a tops in their finale, I think.
Yeah, High Elstree. Yes, but what I mean is though, in terms of forget the numbers of people watching, but in the early days, like they do almost still now with radio figures, the listeners keep a diary of what they were watching, sent it in, and then the numbers multiply. Now we've got Freeview, Sky Plus, Virgin. They can monitor the figures of what we're watching.
Which
the
is
iPlayer monitors how many times that's been streamed.
Well, which is why now on broadcast, I think Broadcast Magazine does it. There is a live watched figure, and a week later how much it's been streamed figure as well. Because the broadcasters need to know that. The program makers need to know that to see whether it's actually effective enough for them to watch. But we like, don't we, having the whole series there to watch. I like watching episode 1 and episode 2, and then the rest of the season is just there.
But I also like event-based television, where we all sit, where we all go to work in the following day around the water cooler.
Who goes to work? Who has a water cooler?
I go right on Skype or whatever, or on Zoom, or whatever. Did you see The Apprentice last night? A whole talking about it.
That's fair. So I think those kind of programs are the only ones that people are kind of watching.
So I don't know. I'm sure there's less people. I know there's physically less people watching television, but are the statistics of the people that are watching more accurate now? And because they had to not falsify them, but they had to create them based on the small margin of people that were watching. Interesting. Maybe maybe you work in the industry.
What do you watch?
When do you
watch? Exactly.
And when do you watch it?
All of that.
Because I think the biggest thing for us recently in the news was, of course, that Blue Peter, which is something that we've both grown up with,
so sad,
is down
no longer
0 viewers,
no longer a live
television.
program on television.
And therefore they've stopped broadcasting it on television, and I think it's only on the iPlayer.
It's only on iPlayer.
And that's, oh my gosh, that's disheartening for somebody that
But I did like going and seeing the Blue Peter Garden up in Salford.
Lovely.
I like that. They've got the whole Italian sunken garden, which Percy Thrower helped make back in the day. Oh yeah, they've rebuilt it. They've recreated it, and the statue of Petra's there. Like,
whatever. I'm not that fussed about it, and I like gardening.
What was your other favourite childhood program?
Mr. Ben.
Nice. Oh, as a kid, I quite like the Wombles.
Yeah, the Wombles. Yeah, there's hundreds that I could name, because in the 70s, it was
the 1970s,
the 1870s. in the 1970s, nobody had any money, so the only entertainment there was the television.
And your working man's club.
And your working man's club, if you could afford to go.
The theatre, if you were really a posh knob.
But that means you could afford to go. Yeah. Most people couldn't afford. Most of the time, we didn't have any electric because the power cuts and everything. We were by count.
Ooh, and when we lived in a shoebox.
But people didn't have a lot of money. So therefore, television became the entertainment for most people.
Opium of the masses.
We only had 3 channels, and the middle one, BBC Two, was mainly documentaries. Yeah. So really,
kids don't understand. When there were only 3 channels, there wasn't any streaming, there weren't any phones. Yeah. Like there were only 3 things to watch.
Oh, we could go on. But I think we'll call it there actually on that one. Yeah, I think we'll call it there. And
sit out in the sunshine.
But I would like to know in the comments. Just give us some love. Click us a like. But I'd like to know what was your best. Dallas was my favourite.
My dad loved Dallas and Blake Seven were the 2. I think they were the 2 shows that he would watch religiously.
Blake Seven, was he in Dynasty?
No,
it was Blake Carrington.
Not the same thing at all. I'll deal with him. Don't worry.
You're a drunk and a tramp and an unfit mother. And you'll never have John Ross, Sue Ellen. Right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.